Everybody. Okay. So, hi everybody. Welcome. Thank you for coming today. We have two very, very special guests and experts that are really going to teach us a lot, and this is just the beginning. So let me quickly introduce. Susan is a leading expert in divorce real estate in Boston, Massachusetts, and she is a certified divorce real estate expert, CDRE. We have Leslie, who is also a certified divorce real estate expert and who is a leading expert in real estate in Chicago, Illinois. Both of these women bring over 20 years of experience and today are really going to start to have the conversation and teach us about what it means to be a CDRE and how they are an integral part of the divorce professional team. So thank you so much for both of you for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
All right, let's get started. Take it away.
Well, I guess I should start. Certified Divorce Real Estate Expert. That's what CDRE is an acronym for. And we are trained neutrals. We assist family law attorneys and divorcing homeowners in the division of real property. And we're trained actually to help keep the case on track, keep the orders being followed out, and essentially remain neutral throughout the process.
Wonderful. Leslie, do you want to add anything there?
Well, I think initially Susan kind of covered everything. We could talk a little bit about the training.
Yeah, absolutely. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the training that you've received, how it's different, and how extensive it is?
Yeah, well, both of us have done some other training that was just 3, 4, 5, 6 hours online, and to kind of get our feet wet and more interested in what this is all about, because I didn't know if there was a protocol for it, and I was kind of searching for that, having a lot of divorce cases and winging it and thinking I was psych major, real estate major, oh, I can do this. And then when I found Laurel Starks in California, who does, she founded the Alumni Institute. She's a broker. She's been doing divorce cases for over 15 years, hundreds of court orders a year. She developed a protocol, which was, she takes about 20 brokers a year and in person, pre-COVID, in California. And we spent 40 hours learning the ethics and the protocol and the intakes and everything that one needs to know. We were in family court and spent time with judges and attorneys, financial people, lenders. The training was just unparalleled. And the amazing thing about it is it keeps going. So we talk about cases, we meet, we on Zoom, we talk to each other about things. So it's just keeps evolving and you keep learning. So it's, yeah.
Just to add to that, Leslie, yeah. Just so that people know the training that we do have. The Alumni Institute in California, as Leslie mentioned, only takes about 20 brokers a year. It admits them to the Institute to be certified. And to be even considered, we need to be a top producing agent in our area. We need to have sold a certain production volume of real estate. We need to fit all this criteria. And then when we start with an 8-week online course that's like this, Zoom meetings, all about why we're needed in this niche. And then we have to go, as Leslie mentioned, 40 hours in person to Riverside, California for a real in-depth training, which is followed up with a 6 months apprenticeship in which we need to continually be learning. So the in-person learning I found to be invaluable because, as Leslie mentioned, we had to go to court. We're trained in court etiquette. There was a judge that was on the faculty that trained us because not only do we know how to sell real estate listings in divorce, but we also provide court testimony when it's necessary.
Right. Thank you for adding to that.
And so do you want to tell us a little bit more about the services, excuse me, that you provide the family law community?
Yes, so just to let you know why I got into this, I mean, I've been selling real estate for 26 years, and historically I always specialized in new development, condo conversions, new construction, stuff like that. And then 6 years ago, I went through a divorce myself, and even though I initiated the divorce and was low-key thrilled, when I went to sell the house, I ended up leaving a lot of money on the table. And when my brain cleared after the divorce was fine, the dust settled, I thought to myself, geez, having been a broker for 26 years and having an intimate knowledge of the lending, industry and the mortgage industry and the real estate industry, if I was that confused and left all that money on the table, I can't imagine, a divorcing homeowner who has no intimate knowledge of real estate or mortgage going through it. So I thought, there's definitely a need for this training. And I did get a designation, like Leslie mentioned, it just took a few hours, which taught me that, yes, we're needed, ethical, credible realtors in the family law community, but I didn't really know how to execute on a daily basis, which is why I attended Laurel's, pretty much year-long certification course. The services that we provide, a family law professional, an attorney or a CDFA would not just call us when they have a property that needs to be listed. They would call us if they're, perhaps negotiating property division settlement for their client and they need a fair market value. We provide those reports so that they can see how much the home, is actually worth in today's market. And we also are available to testify in court if we're assigned to a case that is kind of being sabotaged by one homeowner or the other. We provide education. We do a lot of lunch and learns for attorneys. It's funny because I went to lunch with an attorney a couple of weeks ago, and she was a young attorney, and she confided in me that she was still living at home because she was so bogged down with student debt. And she said, I've never bought a property or haven't bought a house yet or a condo or whatnot. So she doesn't even know the process. Never mind, she's not a real estate attorney. She's a divorce attorney. So we provide a lot of education and we provide a lot of, knowledge to the family law community. They can just pick up the phone and call us if they have a question. It's not all about selling the house. It's about working hand in hand with them to help their clients.
And I can add a little bit, and I'm sure you have been through this too, Susan. Well, first of all, yes, I've been through divorce too, and it definitely sparked the need. And I was telling everybody I could that, oh my gosh, you should have an inspection during the process, or you could split the house, and all of a sudden there's deferred maintenance. I mean, there's so much, I could just go on and on, but one of the things I was going to add on to Susan is I'm finding it very helpful to when attorneys or mediators contact me and say, my clients are paralyzed, they're stuck. We've been in the same boat for 6 months. Can you come in and meet with us? Well, now Zoom. And literally within an hour, everything becomes unstuck, because being able to, when the house is used as leverage one way or the other, and being able to take the emotional piece out of it, and I'll bring a lender in with me and we'll say, okay, what can you really afford? And here are the numbers. And a lot of people don't understand that a refinance is actually a new loan. It's not just take someone's name off the piece of paper and I'll just keep going with the payments. People just don't realize some things that we just take for granted. So we try to take the emotion out of it and make it very factual. And it really makes a difference. And I find that working, as I'm sure you do, Susan, it takes a village, and the attorneys know law. That's their world. We know real estate, financial people, tax people know theirs, and the mental health professionals know theirs. But when someone divorces, you need everybody. You can't just have one person. And, I'm sure as any attorneys on right now know that, they probably have to wear all these hats. And that's why, you just kind of have us on speed dial and be able to make you look good and be able to answer questions that pop up. So, I kind of, it makes me so happy at the end of the day that I'm able to get people unstuck, and moving forward in a positive way without just digging in their heels and feeling like I need to stay in this house just to get so and so back.
Well, to add to that, Leslie, a lot of people anyhow, that are not divorce attorneys or have not been through a divorce don't realize is that the property division in a divorce is the only thing that you can't revisit after the divorce is final. You can go for a modification of alimony or child support or custody, more time. But once the property is divided, that's it. So we try to get involved as early on as we can in a case for an attorney client of ours, so that there are not surprises after the property division settlement. First of all, like Leslie mentioned, you could say, okay, we're going to split the house. I'm going to get a real estate market analysis. The house is worth 500. So the wife is going to stay in the house and she's going to pay the husband 250. That's not really a fair negotiation, because, the roof might need to be replaced a year later. There could be all kinds of deferred maintenance coming up, which need to be considered in that bucket of money during the negotiation. So there are a lot of things that we help with in the beginning, whether or not it's going to turn into a listing for us, that really assists these family law community professionals.
Yes, I agree. And I had a situation that I have a client now, I didn't know them then, but when they divorced, the woman got the condo, and she had to pay $15,000 in special assessments that were on the books, but they weren't slated yet. So they were just in the notes, but nobody, who would have thought to go over, the meeting minutes when you're in the middle of a divorce? People just don't think that way. So we really dig. We dig everywhere to make sure that, there's no surprises later on. And as Susan said, for us to get in sooner than later is just so important, because if you have an appraisal, and everyone's working on the $500,000 number, and then COVID hits, or the market changes, or the interest rates go up. I mean, everyone has this number in their head, but it changes monthly. It changes all the time. And that's why it's so important, for us to be a part of it, because we can do a fair market value and give updates. So I always think of an appraisal as being this kind of snapshot photograph in time, where we're kind of like a video, where we just keep going and give updates and updates, because we want the expectation to always be, we just want the expectation out there and not have a certain number. Like I'll actually say, here's my range, I can give you a number, but I prefer you saying, okay, you get 40%, you get 60% of a range, but not give an exact number until we're ready to get to that point. Because, just like this year, perfect example of a market changing. So it's really important to touch base and find out as much as you can early on. Some people don't even realize that they're not on title, or they're not, on the mortgage. It's amazing.
One of my team members, I have a team of 5. We're licensed in Mass and New Hampshire, and one of the real estate agents on my team is a full-time title examiner. And it's just invaluable, because every time I get called, the first thing I do is have her do a rundown to see if there are any undisclosed home equity lines of credit on the property, one spouse might have taken out without the other knowing, or any kind of liens, any tax liens, anything like that, because that's another thing that
So important.
so important. You just wouldn't know. I mean, I did have a case where the wife didn't know that the husband had taken out a line of credit on the home that was currently maxed out. So that goes into the negotiation as well. That figure, so had the property been divided, that would have been discovered when she refinanced to buy him out. But it was nice to know in the beginning that it was there so that they could add it to the pot.
Exactly. Or just even payoffs.
Exactly.
If you're looking at your mortgage statement and you say, okay, I've got 200,000 left, and everyone's talking about this number, but then when you go to sell the house and you realize that you have forgot about a loan that you put on the backside, or maybe you have $10,000 in, late payments, that's news at the 11th hour, as opposed to getting a payoff letter because the statement doesn't show the exact amount. So as you can see, there's so much. There's just so many little details that you need to work out. And that's why we have an intake form and this protocol of, checking every single thing off to make sure that nothing is missed.
I mean, what you both are saying, I just absolutely love, because I think that that's one of the most important things when it comes to clients, is not only the expectation, but really minimizing the surprises that can happen in a divorce, so that when they are making decisions, they really are well informed and understanding of the consequences of their decisions. And so the education piece that both of you are speaking about, the really digging deep, I think is just so invaluable, given the fact that the property many times is the largest asset that's being divided. And Susan, you read my mind when you said that's the one part where you can't go back and change it. And that's very important for them to just be in the right hands, really digging deep for them, as opposed to them feeling that they don't have all of the information and are being led to have to make certain decisions. So you both mentioned a few vocabulary words that we may not be familiar with in terms. So could you just explain what the difference between an appraisal and a fair market value report is, please?
Sure. Well, a fair appraisal is something that, a lot of attorneys will use to get the value of a property. And we all know that appraisers, come out, they'll do their calculations. Generally, they work for a lender. So, if they work for a family law attorney, they're looking for the highest probable value. For a lender, they're usually trying to get the number that is on the contract. You don't have someone that comes in and knows all the nuances of the school districts, or if you've got those, one side of the tracks, or, we know what sells and at what price with all the little nuances. And unfortunately now everything has to be, looking good and staging and all of that. So as I said before, appraisal is really valuable when you're getting a loan. I think it's less valuable to use for a divorce. I really do. I feel
the other
that
thing that is, just to add to that, Leslie, the other thing is that appraisers really, they only do a visual inspection, and they disclose right in their report in the first few paragraphs that this is only a visual inspection, and that they do not look at the title to find out anything about that. Basically, they do a walkthrough and they determine a price. They don't have any idea, like Leslie said, of the marketability price of that home, as a realtor would. a lot of places that I go to for CMAs, the owners of the home will say, well, Zillow said it should be this much. And you're telling me this much. And, you know, to which I say, A, when was the last time Zillow was here sitting at your coffee table talking about your house with you? And B, Zestimates, what they call the Zillow estimates, they're not admissible in court. So if you are negotiating a property division settlement for your client, there's only two things that the judge will really look at, which is a broker opinion of value, our fair market value report, or an appraisal report. We feel ours is more comprehensive and should be used over the appraisal, but those are
And
big.
also, we can update it.
Exactly.
You know, so you and I, everyone knows that when we do an appraisal or fair market value, and by the time you actually make a decision, it's going to be 1 or 2 years later. So the fact that we've been in the house and we can keep updating is just invaluable. I mean, you just have to have that. You can't go on an appraisal that was from 2 years ago. And that's one thing I love, is just being able to get the updates and, you know, saying, hey, the market shifted and here's this. And it's just, yeah, I wish I had that when I went through it.
I know. I was actually just going to say, anyone who's been through a divorce, you know, I think that they'd see the value in getting a fair market value report over an appraisal.
Yeah, and then in terms of Zillow, Susan, you'd appreciate this. I'm in Chicago, and we're in a Cook County, and Zillow actually rates themselves. They give ratings for accuracy, and they rate themselves 2 out of 5 stars for accuracy.
Wow.
In Chicago. So I'm like, well, would you ever, you know, give a client a 2-star restaurant or hotel, you know, option? But no, you do that for your whole nest egg.
Yeah.
They also, our assessor's office used Zillow for our taxes. And
Really?
they're so off. And yeah, it's really bad. So don't use Zillow. I mean, you can look at it. It actually helps us because it's when I go in to give a listing presentation, you know, the Zillow numbers are 5 to 7%, and brokers are kind of at that 1 to 2% of, you know, list versus sale price. So it only makes brokers, you know what they're doing, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay. So in terms of the training, I know that you both spoke to how intensive the training is, but how does the training really prepare and set you apart from other real estate professionals?
Well, in addition to being trained in the court etiquette and the, you know, protocols, where a lot of our training is dealing with high conflict individuals. I mean, obviously, if you're going into a divorce situation, it's already somewhat high conflict, even if it's the most amicable of divorces. And we're trained to just stay neutral. And I'll give you an example of that. So in my marketplace, there is another realtor who does not have the training that I have, but she used to be a divorce attorney. And so she's now a real estate agent, and she does a lot of divorce real estate. Now, how would you feel if you were an attorney on a case, say you're representing the husband, and this real estate agent gets appointed by the court to sell the house because the husband and wife can't agree on a realtor. They can't agree on anything. They're getting a divorce. So the court appoints this person, and you're the husband's attorney. And then you find out that, like anyone who's been divorced knows, every one of us has a story, and nobody wants to hear it, but we continue to tell it. So every time we go to a home, they're telling us their stories. We remain neutral. This particular agent is now friends on Facebook with the wife. She's linked in with the wife. She's out for drinks with the wife. Now, if you're the husband's attorney, do you consider that a neutral party? No, that's somebody working in the best interest of the wife. To me, I wouldn't be okay as the husband's attorney with that person in the transaction because they're not neutral. It's, they're obviously now have become friends with the wife, and they're hanging around and they're on Facebook and everything. We don't do that. We are trained neutrals. If we're brought in by the house spouse's attorney or the out spouse's attorney, neutral to both sides, to the point where we're even, blind copying people so that it doesn't turn into, why was my wife's name first in the group email thread? Why was my husband, stuff like that. So we're really trained in how to, diffuse situations and be a trained neutral, and just get the job done. Stay in our lane, right, Leslie?
Right. And also on the same topic is we will not do dual agency. So if wife wants to look for a condo while we're trying to sell the home, that's not okay. We're not doing that. So
Sonia, what I wanted to say is that what I have come to realize is that a lot of family law attorneys think very little of real estate agents. And I don't blame them, because the barrier of entry to our industry is very low. In my state, it's 40 hours of education and a test. So the fact that we do recuse ourselves from dual agency is very appealing to the family law community that I've described it to. So if you're a real estate agent and you pick up the phone and it's somebody and say, I'm getting a divorce, I need you to sell my house. 9 times out of 10, a real estate agent will think, bingo, I'm getting 3 sales. I'm going to sell that house. I'm going to sell her a condo. I'm going to sell him a condo. We're not allowed to do that. We have to follow the code of ethics from the institute where we received our certification. We recuse ourselves from dual agency. So when we list a property, if a buyer comes up unrepresented to us, we're not even allowed to refer them out to anyone else. We just tell them, you've got to go find a buyer agent to come about. And the reason for that is not only so that we don't, offer an air of impropriety, or, we're leaning more towards the wife because she's going to buy something from us after we sell the house. It's more so that we are allowed to testify in court and could never, be asked the question, do you have a vested interest in them accepting this price? To where we'd have to say, well, yeah, because I want her to be able to close on her condo and it's subject to selling that type of thing. So we kind of just stay above the fray, stay in our own lane, sell that divorce listing, and that's it.
Yeah, and there's also such a protocol to it where, we'll meet with, usually it's the in-spouse, and then we don't meet with them again. We meet with the out-spouse and then the in-spouse. So there's that feeling of being equal, and both people are feeling like they get the same amount of attention, and I'm not talking to one person 4 times and not looping in the other. And we're also very conscious about their, attorneys, hourly fees. We are not going to be contacting the attorneys nonstop and racking up the poor client's fees. So, and I hear over and over again with some of my colleagues that do some divorce listings that they just pick up the phone all the time and are asking questions, and we're very conscious of that. And I know our clients really appreciate that.
Absolutely. So we have a few questions here. So let's open it up because I have some also. This is from Sandra. I build into the division of assets an offset for the future sale expenses and any deferred maintenance currently identified or anticipated. Besides getting quotes from contractors and estimating commissions, expenses based on current value, what other considerations should be included in determining future expenses to ensure equitable split?
Is this for a home or a condo? I assume it's a home, or?
Let me see if I can.
Just this home.
Let me put us up here.
Home. She said home.
Home.
Well, I guess first of all, a lot of states will have inspections to know what's going on, and it's very clear cut. In where I'm, in Chicago, where I am, sellers feel that once there is an inspection, they're liable. and they have to disclose. And that's okay. I feel like when you're going through a divorce, that's okay. You know, I'd rather put it out there and say, this is what's going on with the property, and either sell it as is, or, you know, go through the pieces that need to be fixed. So to me, I would have an inspection, and then I would have the inspector and contractors come in and either fix things or give, you know, give amounts for repairs. But as much as you can fix, depending on the money that they have, you know, sometimes there's just none. And the other piece of that is that you have to be careful to have stuff done, air quotes, between now and then the time you still divorce, because a lot can happen in those year or two in terms of things change, you know, more deferred maintenance. Have things been, have all the mechanicals been serviced, all, you know, the appliance is still working. So even though you're talking about today, it's not the same as in 2022 when everything becomes finalized. So.
When I do a fair market value, I also include a net proceeds sheet, which lists all of the little items related to a sale. In my state, we have tax stamps. So for every $1,000 of a sale price, even if it's a refi, a buyout, they owe $4.56 per thousand. And it's not a huge expense, but it adds up to a few thousand if it's, you know, so those type of expenses, the attorney fees for closing. In my state, we don't do escrow, we do, you know, a closing, a physical closing. So yeah, we pretty much provide all of the real estate related and property specific items to you so that you could work them into your division of assets.
Yeah.
So as a follow-up to that question, this is also from Sandra. Have you ever done dual representation? You for one spouse and another realtor for the other spouse? And what do you consider the issues that may present themselves with this arrangement?
I've never done dual agency with a divorce and homeowner listing that I've been servicing.
Yeah, I haven't either. So, that's just dangerous.
And this, so another question from Susan. We have some great questions here. Is there a difference between a CDRE and an RCSD?
Yes, there's a big
A
difference.
lot.
So the RCSD, that stands for Real Estate Collaborative Specialist in Divorce. Leslie and I both have that designation, and that was what kind of whet our appetite to get educated more. I consider that my elementary school, and earning the CDRE was like grad school. It was just, you know, again, a lot of realtors, they don't spend a lot of money on education. We have to do a certain amount of continuing ed every 2 years. I took the RCSD designation and it cost me less than $500. I spent a year earning the CDRE designation. And between the travel to California, the tuition, the apprenticeship, it was a little over $15,000, which is a lot of money to spend on earning a certification in my world. But it was so worth it. It was so worth it, I feel. The CDRE, you know, the RCSD told us pretty much why this was such an important thing, that divorcing homeowners in the family law community have us on their side. And then the CDRE actually taught me how to execute with a business plan and court etiquette. We have to learn legal terms. It was like mind blowing, the difference between these two. But both of them.
Yeah, you are spot on. And the RCSD it might be led as well, and just like, oh, I'm more interested. But the person that runs it is an attorney, which is interesting, but she's not a broker and she's never sold anything. And that's a big difference in our world where we're coming from.
She never practiced law. She's a professor.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean.
So it was interesting, but it wasn't attainable. It was just like, wow, this information is really good, but it wasn't practical for our everyday work.
Yeah, it didn't teach us how to execute you know, Laurel Starks, who runs the Alumni Institute, and I brought a little plug for her. She wrote the book, The House Matters in Divorce. And in her training, it's so comprehensive that it's not only just telling us what we need to do, there are scripts, there are templates, there are, you know, you do not say this ever to an attorney, you do say this, you don't speak to a judge this way. I mean, it's just really intense, and it was a lot to learn, but I'm glad I did it. So I feel confident now if I'm in a courtroom that I'm behaving appropriately and speaking correctly, and, you know, down to where not to stand in the courtroom, in the well, you know, or what to bring with you to the witness stand. I mean, it was just so much more training than the RCST.
Yeah, I agree.
So this question comes from Todd. And so Susan, you had mentioned that you had left some money on the table when you sold your home during the divorce. If you're not comfortable responding to this, please don't. But if you are, then how can you share some specifics around what you left on the table and how much you think it amounted to? What Todd is getting at is it might be helpful to get to some concrete numbers or examples so that when he is talking to someone going through a divorce, he can really advocate for why they should use a CDRE.
Okay. Yes, no, I'm comfortable answering anything. Leslie will tell you I'm completely inappropriately appropriate. And my children are gone. I'm working from home today, so I can speak freely. When I got divorced, I had 2 minor children in the home. As I said, I was thrilled to be getting a divorce for many reasons. Not the least of which my ex-husband was extremely just emotionally abusive. Okay, and so his specialty would be pitting the kids against me, and you know, that just, I deferred to him on different things with the house because of that, because of the personalities that were going on, the emotions that were in the house. I accepted an offer that was at least $25,000 less than I would have gotten had I just powered on and said, no, I'm not going to accept this offer. But he just wanted to get that house sold. He wanted his money, and he just didn't want, if he couldn't live in that house, nobody was going to. I mean, I offered to buy him out and certainly had the financial means, but he wasn't having it. So because I needed to keep my minor children whole emotionally, I did leave some money on the table because I accepted an offer that wasn't nearly what it would have gone for, as all of my realtor friends told me. So.
Yeah, and for me, it was before I was in real estate when I went through divorce, and we had a investment property. So my ex got that house and I had got the family home, and it was just, you know, they were pretty even. So we just kind of split things and adjusted a little bit. And I stayed in the house for about 3-4 years. And I, you know, my ex did all the maintenance. He was just, you know, that was his world. I just didn't. And there were roof issues that I didn't even know about when I sold, some porch structural stuff. So a lot can happen, as I said, in 3-4 years. And when we had the inspection, the buyers wanted a huge credit, and I was stuck. You know, I mean, it was going to come up with anyone. So, you know, I wish that we had done an inspection then and said, these are the issues. Now, between now and when you're living there, you're responsible, you know, Leslie, but not at the point where we are right now today. So, you know, you live and learn. And as Susan and I both feel, it's just we kind of want people to feel empowered and be able to have all the knowledge so they're not stuck. Or even, you know, sometimes people don't even think of that when they're selling, they're going to have to pay a huge amount of capital gains. There's a lot out there to think about.
So a few, and please, if anybody has more questions, just send them onto the chat. So for me, I'm curious, where do you find that most of the referrals that you both get come from? Is it happy clients? What types of professionals?
Well, I find that I get a lot of my referrals from the family law community. And so, for instance, that's another thing that they teach us at the Institute is how to work collaboratively with certified divorce financial analysts, divorce coaches, mental health professionals. I find I get more referrals from that than I do from happy clients, because it's not like we're, when we close on a divorce listing, it's not like a conventional client that you close on and then you enter their email into your sphere of influence database so you can send them, e-blasts about, happy holidays and all that, so that you'll be, front of face, so that when they go to sell again, they'll use you. The goal here isn't to retain these people as continuing clients. The goal is to help them get through this period of their life and squeeze as much equity out of their house as we can so they can fund life 2.0, because it's so expensive to get a divorce. And a lot of times, yeah, and have two homes to pay for. And divorce really, a lot of times, financially decimates families. And so, yeah, our goal is not to have a continuing client out of it. Our goal is to work with them to help. So the short answer is attorneys and coaches and CDFAs.
Yeah, and I agree. Mine are from family law attorneys and CDFAs, and then I've done a few kind of our unstuck sessions with mediators to help them, through the process, their clients through the process.
Great. So I know my last question, unless anybody has any more, you both touched upon this, but I'm curious in terms of divorcing clients and where you meet them in the process. What do you find are some of the most common mistakes, common places that these clients are really stuck in?
I would say the number one for me is wanting to stay in the house for the wrong reasons. It's usually, not that it's wrong, but it's because they don't want to change. And if they can stay in the house and afford the house and the schools are right for the kids or whatever, great. I mean, that's fantastic if that can be done. But, unfortunately, that's not always the case. And that probably is the number one, issue that I see arise. What about you, Susan?
Yeah, that's pretty much, that would be mine too, because a lot of times, a divorcing couple, the wife might want to stay in that family home. That's where she brought her babies home from the hospital to. That's where all of their memories are. But when we connect her with a certified divorce lending professional to actually assess and engage whether or not she can afford with whatever she's receiving for work or support, sometimes it just doesn't leave any, there's not enough money there. So yes, that's a big point where people get stuck.
And I think a lot of people don't know what else is out there. So when we do bring a lending professional into the picture, we always give them some options just to look at, on paper, to say, wow, here's a townhouse where you have very little maintenance. You have a small association fee and you don't have to take care of a house or, land or whatnot. So just seeing a visual in front of them and saying, yeah, gosh, maybe it would be nicer to have something that I don't have all those memories and I can start fresh and new. One of the other things that's just kind of off topic, but I think it's really kind of important, is one of the differences that I feel between us and, regular realtors is, when you call a client and you say, I have an offer on your house, most sellers are really happy, right? That's usually not the case. We don't be like, oh my God, we got an offer. I mean, usually we'll get tears. It's very emotional. So, putting a sign up to getting an offer is just devastating. We're seeing people on their worst days. And I would say realtors, in general, of course, why would they even think that would be, just devastating and horrible. So we need to always put ourselves in their shoes.
I love that. So I have another question. Given the current climate that we're in, how is this affecting the clients that you're seeing come through? I'm sure this would be a whole nother webinar. I understand, but just, yeah, I'm curious about some of the things that you're seeing given what the current climate is.
So what I'm seeing is a lot of, well, in the beginning, in March and April, when everyone was going into shutdown mode, issues were arising about the custody of the children. I don't want to send them to my ex's house. I don't know if he's sanitizing his place. I don't know if he's being clean. A lot of that kind of stuff that's not in our wheelhouse, but we hear it from our clients. The other thing I've been running into just lately, the last few months, I've done fair market values in properties where they're both living there. One spouse refuses to leave. And whether it's due to COVID or just due to them saying, no, this is my house, I'm not going, one or the other doesn't want to go. And I don't counsel them on this because it's not my profession. I'm not a mental health professional, but it's a really toxic environment for the kids. That's been a tough one to be around.
Yeah, I have experienced a huge uptick in separation, getting lots of calls saying, surprisingly, we're going to sell the house, live together, sell the house, and when we do, then we're going to move on, which is interesting. But it's also been certainly more amicable. I have found that while there's like the high level stress where people are just over the top stress, there's also, I have found a new kind of wave of people being very reasonable and kind during this process. With the kids home and everyone taking, I mean, it's tight quarters, it's got to be difficult, but they're getting through it, and they're knowing that in the end they're going to move on, which is in some ways wonderful, in terms of being able to do that together. So
Definitely refreshing to hear. So
yeah.
Final question, ladies. This is from Sandra. Do you charge extra commission for a high conflict divorce? She does have a realtor in her area that does by 0.5%.
I do not. However, on the flip side of that, I also don't discount my services because we are coming into a high conflict situation. It is double the work, on each side. And I've been asked by a couple of my family law attorneys, well, can you discount your commission because, the homeowners are tight on money and this, that, and the other? To which I say, have you? Because my divorce attorney billed me in 15-minute increments. One quick email and it's on the bill. So we do walk into high conflict situations. I don't increase my commission, but I don't discount it either.
I'm exactly. I don't charge more.
One more quick one. What is your marketing strategy to get your name and specialization out to the divorce referral sources? Do you do joint presentations to clients?
No, we don't. This is our first joint presentation. When we were at the Institute, there was a business development section or component to the certification that teaches us how to identify the family law professionals that we would like to work with, and then how to market ourselves to them, which consists of pre-COVID, it was a lot of, pop-bys with information and stuff like that, invitations for lunch and learns where we could come into an office and kind of let the whole staff know what we do and how they can avail themselves to our services. Right now, it's a lot of, I've been still doing lunch meetings with family law professionals, and just emails and phone calls, stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm doing more one-on-ones, either coffee or Zoom. I just find that I started off doing the lunch and learns pre-COVID, and I'm part of a few groups where, it's kind of a Q&A for an hour with everybody, professional type groups. And that seems to be great in terms of networking.
Yeah, we have I'm a director, the director of membership and social for the NADP in Boston, which is the National Association for Divorce Professionals. So we're allowed to have 3 of each discipline in our group. So 3 family law attorneys, 3 mediators, 3 real estate agents, 3, therapists.
In Chicago just started, but we have only 1 per. I'm the only agent. There's only 1 per.
But that's another way that we market ourselves, through that networking group.
Wonderful. So Susan, Leslie, immense thank you. There was just so much value today. You really schooled us all in what a CDRE is, the training you guys have, the insight, the depths of what your work is. I can go on and on because this was so, so valuable to me and to everyone else who was on here and to everyone who this will be shared with. Just to wrap it up, would you two just mind letting people know how can they reach you if they want to get in contact with you both? How do they reach you?
Well, it's Leslie at Leslie Glazier, GLAZIER.com. And 312-208-3444.
Yep, so they can go to my website, Divorce Realtor in Mass, well, MA, divorcerealtorinma.com. Give me a call, 781-475-2475.
Thank you both so much. I will be sending out the link to everybody who registered, and I will also include in that email both contact information for Leslie and Susan. To both of you, just an immense thank you. This was I learned a lot. This was a quick hour. This was a very quick hour. So thank you both so very much.
Thank you, Sonia.
Thank you, Sonia.
Thank you, everybody who was here.